I know y'all didn't think we were done. Hi, Free Enterprise fans, and welcome to the second half of our doubleheader tonight on our home channel. We've got 4-1 Dia coming at you, playing against 3-0 Zilch, yet to be handed a loss. PK, here in the booth with me. What can you tell me about Dia and Zilch's style and the way they like to handle these table flag seeds? What have you seen?
Well, I mean, Zilch has been a big generator of basically new ways to take on Threemus using various elements that you find on this T-Pro setting. The Vampires, Cure 3s, really has taken sort of the low-level, only Eddie type of strats and sort of turned that on its head. So we very well might have a chance to see Zilch. There's a Battle Speed 6 strat that's very interesting to see, bluffing up Hallam. There's the 1200 HP with the Vampires. Dia, I think if you've been watching this community, everyone knows is just going to just start running downhill and not slow down for the entirety of this race.
Absolutely. I saw someone in the chat earlier describe it as the king of Eblin Castle versus the queen of minimalism. So, ought to be real spicy. I see our objectives here. We have the standard forge. There's defeat the boss of the Mist Cave. That's free and open at the start. Liberate Baron Castle. That'll require a key item. And the Giant of Babel only needs a darkness crystal. So, as long as that Baron key isn't terribly buried, we could be looking at a very fast seed here. Want to give a brief shout out as well to our tracker tonight, Gambit. Gonna be keeping all the things lit up so y'all know what's going on down there. And Asuka handling the restream, getting us swapped over here for the doubleheader. How do you like a Sid start?
The Sid start is better than some of the starts you're going to get. Sid is very nice to have with you early game. Sort of takes up a little space later on, but if you find a curse string, it does give you the chance to sort of let Tella actually cast spells, assuming that's what we're going to see. I am interested in asking, with this new Baron Manip for the Mac Giant for the D-Machine fight, the one downfall of it, and you might know where I'm going with this, is that you can't check the first fight in the Giant. So how would you consider playing this, knowing that you have to complete the Giant? Those are two tough fights with high HP, so we'll probably see a grind here, but do you go up and check this before? Do you do your grind? Because you get a lot of XP from there.
That's a good point. I think I am more inclined to do that if I do have a Tella anyway. I think if my only grind option is Mac Giants, I'm probably going to go ahead and set up the grind and do it. If I have a Tella, I am willing to get a little more frisky with that, just because if it is a boss that doesn't have the boss bit, has some kind of exploitable vulnerability, he has the spells that let you take care of that without having to get the levels first. And if all else fails, you can do the classic manip. You just have to reset a lot more because you're only going to really have a chance at getting to the D money on a 1 or a 2.
Oh, Asuka. Speaking of the Giant, I would imagine that is now officially in play. We're really just on a hunt for the Baron key or two parts of the sword here. So overall, we're just looking for really a Tella. This is going to be, you might not even see anybody go underground in this race. This should be very interesting.
So at this point, I think we're, Zilch normally likes to do that early Eblin Castle loot. I think given that start, that's not going to be in the cards for him this seed. The Darkness Crystal is screaming, find a Tella, get your mages, do your grind, let's go.
Yeah, I think we're going to see as many character checks as possible and as early of a grind as possible. Knowing Dia, if you've seen some of her races, you'll know she can set up a Mac Giant grind with next to nothing, bluff Hallam with Virus. Sid's base hammer is going to get you something. This has go as quick as you can written all over it.
However, if we are going to try to get set up to do that D-money kind of grind as quickly as possible, we do need a little bit of financing, so it's not surprising to see Adia doing a little bit of looting here. You want to get some extra life potions just to make sure you can get all your doubles in. Ideally, you want to find Ether 1s, maybe Ether 2s. We could always check the Lunar Shop and hope that they land there. You have to be able to fuel up your Tella to get the full value out here. But then, of course, will be a really hilarious scene if there is just no Tella to be found. The tease of the opening Darkness Crystal and no Tella, fingers crossed, chat.
Yes, some of these seeds, you get started and you think, okay, this one's going to be 65 minutes flat, and then an hour and 45 minutes later, you're still not at Threemus. So this is no guarantee that this is going to be a fast seed. We've seen a few character checks here. I'm not seeing a Tella, not seeing a Palom.
So thank you, Gundam Pilot Spaz, for the gift subs going out to the community. Always appreciated.
So what would be your point in this seed, assuming we don't end up finding a Tella? When are you ready to grind? When do you route in the giant, or do we not have enough information yet to decide?
I think we need to wait and see if this is going to be a magma key or a hook seed. If there's a rude hook boss, but I can say buy, my anti-giant weaponry in Eblin Cave, well, I may be tempted to go ahead and get my grind done first before taking the rude hook route. If you commit to Moon, maybe you find a magma key up there too and shave off time that way as well. What I don't like, though, is doing a Mac Giant grind without 10 key items if I can help it. It may be the right play. Frequently getting your levels sooner rather than later just accelerates the rest of your game. But it's just a slog, and I don't personally enjoy doing it. So, hey, that's a way to beat me in a race. Do a Mac Giant grind, do it soon. I don't want to sit there and kill 15 Mac Giants with 15 life glitches on top of them. I have better ways to spend my time.
Yeah, the XP, compared to D machines, you're going to need to kill a lot more. The setup doesn't let you, cycle through nearly as consistently as with the D machine fight. But this is a very interesting play from Zilch, going ahead and just checking who is at this element spot.
And saving too. I mean, if this is like King Queen Eblin, that is not King Queen Eblin. That is very useful information, though. That is, of course, the Alt Gauntlet, which that can basically be your grind right there. But you kind of... So the D Machine grind and the Mac Giant grind are both very nice because you are relatively safe as long as you take the proper precautions. That one there, that mob includes a wider variety of giant of Babel enemies, and thus is not quite so... you can't prep for it quite as easily.
Yeah, I was going to say that the information that I would take out of that is, well, I'm going to have to do a pretty decent grind before I feel comfortable getting through that gauntlet without taking a wipe, because those bosses up there are very much dangerous, but you can at least, as you said, be on the lookout for the gear that's going to help you with that.
And I wonder also now that we've seen that mob is there. Like, the Alt Gauntlet is not a quick fight in the vast majority of places. Eventually, if you get, a properly leveled, Black Mage who can sweep fight after fight, yeah, it can get pretty fast in some of the early locations. That is a spot that will not be fast, even if you do grind up to, the low 50s. So there's also an outside chance here that we may see a racer decide, I don't want to go for that. I'm going to try to do my other 3 objectives rather than make that level of time commitment. Probably not, but there's still a chance.
Yeah, I think as we progress, if we see, one piece of the sword pop up early, if they end up in a situation where, you're looking for one of 2 key items to have go mode, it definitely might be a gamble, but knowing that Alt Gauntlet is there, you could definitely get away with 2 or 3 key item checks in the time it would take your opponent to get through that.
Zilch here, making his irregular Castle Eblin checks. Got a Sylph summon before running into the first mob of enemies. Pretty handy. The best way to get an early game Meridia up and fighting and actually contributing to the team. Not that we're necessarily going to take Iridia if we find one, but that definitely gives her some early viability.
Yeah, and there is a Palom, and seeing that definitely is making me think we might be, if you haven't seen this, these the Mac Giant grinds with the bluffed up Palom is looking like becoming more and more potentially likely if we don't find a Tella.
Yeah, a maxed out bluffed Palom will do about 3,000 damage per virus, and those giants, if I remember correctly, have 8,500 HP. So a couple of maxed bluffed viruses plus a good hit from a giant killer weapon will frequently take one down in one rotation of the party, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, it is a great way, as you said. I think it's too early to know if you're going to grind until you figure out what your underground route is going to be. But I know in both of these runners' minds, just the longer you carry around that darkness crystal, without having done a grind, particularly when you're racing Dia, particularly when you're racing Zilch, that there's always the chance that they're already up there getting your levels. And this is no Tella so far, so when you do find a Tella on these, it's pretty straightforward. You go just do the D machine. If you don't have a Tella, is really when you start playing that game of how much can I get through before I do the grind? Can I get to 10 key items, things like that.
Yeah, and that was kind of a big determining factor in my race against Dia, was the fact that she did commit to a Mac Giant grind early, whereas I chased every potential character spot I could and found a Tella at the very last one. Which of course allowed for the faster grind. Here, if we see things like an early Earth Crystal, again, if we do get a Magma Key, which will give us access to the Dwarf Castle check, or a Hook, of course, gives us access to the character at the Vanilla Edge spot, there are still lots of places we could find a Tella here, but at this point, not coming free, not coming easy.
Speaking of free, the most accessible Antlion chest right there has a Siren sitting in wait, and we have a free boss down in the Antlion Cave as well.
Yeah. This does, however, mean that you won't be fighting these in the CPU spot or anywhere else later in the game, but honestly, that's not the worst thing. These three are surprisingly rude at that spot for being a boss that doesn't have the boss bed. The CPU spot, of course, has basically maxed out physical attack power, so having a whole bunch of things that just want to punch you is not a happy fun time.
Yep, and that's a very good point. Every boss you're taking now, you are considering who might be at that CPU fight, and you are really hoping, like you said, it's not a physical attack boss, because that is an incredibly rude spot. It's tied with, what would it be, Cape Bahamut and the Leviathan spot as far as physical attack?
Yeah, those three plus Wyvern are all like pretty much the highest ones in the game. I think two are tied for one, and like the other two are tied for three or so, something like that. I don't remember the exact details. Zilch here about to get the Lunar Disappointment. Dia, meanwhile, has seen enough. She's got two black mages. Who needs gear? We've got spells.
Yeah, Dia has already looted her typical 7 chests for the entirety of the seed. Well, not sure if we'll see her open up anymore. I would not even be surprised if we see her, sell that Siren if it's what she needs to get the ethers and everything else to set up a grind. Because while that Siren is lovely to have, if you can't really get too much use out of it until you get underground, you might be able to go do some Warlocks with the Mute spell. But with that darkness in hand, I know both people are just thinking, when am I going to grind? What's the grind going to be? And where is that Baron Key?
Oh yeah, the Darkness Crystal just in general, hey, bonus round, gives you such an increase in your heart rate. Like you feel your pulse start pounding when you get that, especially with a set of objectives like these, especially with an opponent like each of these two. Like instantly your adrenaline just comes pumping and you're like, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. And if the seed's rude enough, we're going to be thinking that, well, they'll be thinking that for hopefully the next 90 minutes to 2 hours.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential divergence as well with this early darkness, because at some point you're going to have to decide, and earlier than you might like, am I ready? Am I leaving things hanging on the earth and underground to go check these moon spots? Is my opponent already up on the moon? There's a lot of divergence that presents itself with a start like this, and it is not a fun headspace to be in. I can say that from experience.
Demist, of course, a fairly simple script. Punch 3 times, turn into mist. While in mist form, counters with cold mist. After a set number of ticks, comes back. Like so many other Final Fantasy starter bosses, tries to teach you about counterattacks, and I did not pick up on that as a child. I mean, I knew not to attack what was missed. I didn't realize that there were, 1,000 other enemies in this game that also all have counterattacks.
Yeah, I can agree. Having played this as a kid, I just thought, that was just what they did no matter what. And then all of a sudden, you realize that Rubicante only reacts to fire spells if you punch him.
Yeah. Zilch, meanwhile, the first one to tackle that Mist Cave objective. Nothing too threatening there. And then Asura, pretty nice fight to find there. She definitely gets annoying in later spots where you either have to do the double Staravel or a really long life lock, or you hope you have a ton of anti-mage weaponry. Having her at a, 500 HP spot, nice to go ahead and get that one off the table.
Yeah, very convenient. I definitely am also 100% on board with checking some of these early weapon shops, particularly with the Rosa, because while we are on the T Pro or the S Pro setting, there are some decent items, particularly for an archer, that you might be able to run across that'll help you in this early stage.
And Dia does get the Earth Crystal from the Bull. We might actually see her loot more than 7 chests this game. That might be interesting. And I'm real curious, though, what is going to come from this Demist reward.
Yeah, Earth Crystal presents a pretty interesting option. And 2 more character checks. It is a question, though, of, it is a longer check. The bosses there are going to take you a little bit longer to get through. And this is, potentially even more divergence. And I don't think Demas gave us too much value there.
I don't hate a Protect Ring here. I find that when you're going with a mage-heavy team, it's kind of difficult to actually get them outfitted to where they can survive even, a light breeze. And a Protect Ring definitely goes really far on that front.
Yeah, physical defense, something like that attached to that Cid is gonna, or even either of these Palums, but I'm only thinking the Cid just because of his tanky nature, is gonna at least make you feel pretty comfortable for the remainder of this early world. And it looks like Dia is also not going to have any problems. But with this party that you're rocking, when would you feel comfortable heading up Zot?
That is kind of the key to the seed, especially if there's a Tella up there, huh? I think a big part of it will depend on what I get from the Troya Treasury. I think I will unreservedly take a Rosa and then probably go do Ordeals, because if you're hoping to get a Tella anyway, you've got to do Ordeals at some point. So get some levels on your Rosa, get her up to fighting form, have a white mage, 2 really good black mages, and Cid. At that point, I'm feeling pretty confident in heading up that tower. But it looks like this loot may also affect the calculus of that judgment.
Very much so, and it is, I believe, time to play our favorite.
Raise that treasury!
I don't think it's Dia's favorite game. Looting, ugh, gross. Pretty handy stuff here, though. Got a Charm Rod, the second best stat stick for a black mage. Got a Ribbon, got a Bacchus one. And the Curse Ring is really fantastic, not having to worry. The Curse Ring is like the main thing that you will check gated armor shops for, and just getting one for free right now, super convenient.
Yeah, that means you can route out a lot of bonus walking whenever you do get underground. That's always something that you're hoping to find in loot for that specific reason. Dia, I think, yeah, we might see her head on over to Ordeals. I think you're right. If this is me, I'm hoping to get Virus on those Palums. So maybe clear Ordeals. We might even see taking 1 or 2 encounters just to get that Virus spell. But that is at least me. That Siren, if I haven't found Underground Access, you can actually pop that up on Ordeals as well if you're looking for, Berserk on Iridia, Virus on Palom, things of that nature.
Oh yeah, and chat realizing that the other notable thing that Curse Ring enables is reaction strats. If you want to try to insta-kill a mob on the moon by hitting it with Lightning 1, well, the Cursed Ring lets you slow down your party's anchor and get those Paloms acting fast enough to get the spell off. I think it's still tricky with only 3 party members just because you don't have enough people entering the queue to slow down the enemies. But if she pulls this off, this will be fantastic for her team trying to ascend Ordeals.
Yeah, and that Curse Ring and that Protect Ring probably going to come in handy. I would think that might give Palom enough protection if you have to sit through 1 round of attacks, but I'm sure Dia or you might know this better than I do. This is not a grind I find myself doing quite very often.
Yeah, well, that's the mob you want, but the other issue is back attacks are, I believe, they're RNG based, but your party level is a big factor in determining if you get a back attack. And this ain't a very high level team yet. But that was definitely the mob you wanted. You just wanted it to be in the front and not in the back.
Yep, for anyone who isn't familiar, and maybe you want to describe the absolutely unique characteristics of this grenade.
Oh, yeah. So we were talking earlier about counter scripts and how so many enemies have them. The grenades have one that if you hit them with lightning, they explode and destroy everything else on the field. It has to be single target lightning. You can't do this with a Thor Rage. You have to actually cast one. And boom, that's 10,000 XP and Virus on both these Quack kits.
Yep, that is going to trivialize going up more on Ordeals. Given that Ribbon, the Protect Ring, those things as well, I would feel, if I'm Dia in this position, pretty comfortable if I want to go to Zot and check on those 2 characters as well.
Yeah, and I will say that just to get into the head of a runner for a moment, I get the feeling that Dia here, given that Tiara we also saw in the Treasury, does not actually want her Rosa here. Dia wants to be strong enough to take care of Zot. Dia wants to get Tella and Rydia from there and have triple nuke the rest of the way through the game. No true white mages necessary. Just blow everything the heck up. So I think we're going to see, yeah. I did not think she was going to run into Nasidia there. Again, no white mages necessary. We're just going to blow things up.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on what I think her routing is going to look like. I will say if we don't see Atella in either of these 2 Zot checks, we might just get a slingshotted Rosa as your only, available option to slingshot. But at this point, a lot of people think you need to carry around a white mage, and when you have 3 people who can cast nuke, you very, very, very infrequently need to cast any sort of curative spells.
Yeah. Now, this is a bold play here, running up here. Did get the Virus from the reaction grind, but it's still not very high level. You don't have Quake. Your Sid is tanking really nicely, but there are a lot of bosses up here that can be really fast, have really high magic attack, can punch pretty hard, and our gear is okay, but this is definitely still a real risky play, but that's what Dia does. She will find a way through very rude fights and just looking for the shortest path between point A and the nuke spell. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, she is just an avalanche going downhill at all times. There is one boss, I will say, that could basically prevent you from getting through this, that being Valvalis with this party.
Yeah, Valvalis with this party. Sid does not have the attack multipliers just yet. Would be able to handle her at the 2nd spot, because she is bugged in Free Enterprise at her vanilla location, does not get her physical defense there. Even in tornado form. But Evil Wall here, that's a little scary.
The Evil Wall, potentially, that first punch was actually what I was waiting to see, if that Protect Ring was going to offer you enough physical defense to not be overly concerned, and it looks like so far hitting for at least double digits or single digits, which, as long as you get your bluffs off and your spells off fast enough, I think should be through this.
Yeah, the having the Protect Ring and the Ribbon both stacked on that top palm is very nice here.
And this is something I think we're going to see more of if we don't find a Tella, and that's those bluffed up viruses hitting for a lot more damage than you're accustomed to if you have not played around with that bluff spell or that bluff ability, because it adds, is it 15?
16. So it's actually
16.
a little more than a Stardust Rod. Like, you don't need a Stardust Rod with a Palom. He has one built right in.
And you can stack that to a certain degree, right?
Yeah, I believe Exodus told me it stacks to 127, actually. The display in your menu, just from leveling up, only goes up to 99, but I think I've been told it goes to 127. I'm not positive though. Please correct me on that, chat, if I am incorrect. Sometimes you hear a thing that sounds authoritative, you don't remember where you heard it, and it enters your brain, and you just get to be wrong about way too many things.
Well, in free enterprise, I think a lot of it's made up anyway. When it comes to some of these things, I know that the bluff thing makes the virus more powerful. That's about as much as I could answer definitively, but still no Tella, and I don't think Eddie's going to be a huge help for this team either.
Well, that's just the first character. There's one more up here.
And it looked like that was another Palom in Baron Inn. So we are seeing sort of a divergence.
We're in business.
Ooh.
This is huge for Dia. You know, you mentioned the avalanche going downhill. This is going... Zilch is on a major clock now. Dia's already bought 10 ethers. Has to do ordeals still to get weak, but Zilch is on a timer now. If he does not get up here and get a Tella sooner rather than later, Dia is going to run roughshod over everything else in the scene.
Yeah, and as we saw with that alt gauntlet, that might still with Nuke prove a little difficult, but that physical and magical defense gear is really going to come in, even more handy than you would have anticipated at the start of this.
This is actually a surprisingly rude fight. So the Valhalla spot does have some of the highest spell power in the game. Kind of put in there to make sure she doesn't miss with her weak spells or her Ray attack in the vanilla game. And so even these tier 2 spells from the Magus Sisters are going to be coming out, to the tune of nearly 1,000 damage. The Protect Ring, which one of these Paloms has the Protect Ring since Dia reorganized her party? The top one or the middle one?
I believe it is the top one.
Okay.
And I have run into this fight before. These sisters are really, really fast here if you don't have a high agility character, actually, I believe, because she purposefully took Sid off of the center to not anchor this fight. But these sisters are going to get their turns off just stacked and stacked. You're going to get one input maybe before you have to sit through their whole script each time.
And it wouldn't surprise me to end up seeing like ethers having to be used here, because if it's kind of going to be a battle of attrition more or less here. You have to keep Mindy down, or else these tier 2 spells are just going to be wrecking your team. But Paloms at these levels, they don't have a huge MP pool to be throwing this many viruses.
Yep, and there was part of me that was wondering if Dia was going to grind up to Quake. I mean, we're obviously in one of those few situations where the virus cast isn't going to be able to get you through, but that is a spell that I would imagine Dia is certainly wishing she had at this current moment.
I mean, you can always turn on random encounters. Find one of those conjurers with the little evil dolls. It is an actual grind. It's not super strong, but it can get you to level 23 on these Paloms.
Yeah, she isn't too far away from having the Quake spell. And this is definitely going to be one of those battles of, am I saving time by not taking that grind? I think if she struggles again on this attempt with them, we might see some effort like that.
Pain
And we
Man at one
have-
of the
yeah.
least painful locations in the game.
It is when you see the Pain Man in some spots, you scramble and you're trying to input as many things as possible. Other times, your party just sort of looks at Pain Man like, is that really all you got right now?
Yeah, it's like, oh, I get to rearrange my inventory during some text boxes and some animations.
Yeah, your Justice monologue comes off as a lot stronger when you're hitting for more than 18 damage.
Like that seed last night that had him at Leviathan, where you can do up to 1,300 damage with a Dark Wave. That's the Pain Man we like to see in these races. Our seed roller here making things a little easy on the runners tonight, but not with this attempt to get Tella. This is shockingly rude.
Yeah, these sisters, and with how fast they were moving, you know, that after dropping out Mindy that first time, that recover came so quickly that I'm curious to see how effective we are at actually being able to cast enough to get through this, because Cindy is going to have that wall up, so the virus is not going to be super effective.
Well, no,
Except right then.
Yeah. Dia managed to hit Sandy with a virus before the wall could go up. And so as long as he keeps her down, the punches are the only real threat here.
Yep, and that is Mylon Z in the back attack spot. That was another question that you always have when you go up ordeals. The back attack spot has potential. Again, someone like Valvalis in the back attack spot with this party is just a no-go, at least for Dia. But with this Kane, I think has a white spear as well, it's just going to mow through this.
Yeah, and Dia does get through the Cursed Ring, bringing it home, letting the Palom up top kill Sandy before the wall goes up. You don't have to do the damage to the sisters, just let the sisters damage themselves. And also a really popular strat, just because there's nothing worse than Sandy staying alive long enough to charm your Palom, who then, just rains, fiery death upon your own team. So knocking her out of the way made the fight relatively easy. Dia's through, has a Tella, and also gets a second tail.
Well, both tails in hand. No hook to be seen yet. We still haven't seen our underground access. So I'm guessing it has to be up here. We're about to see it on Zilch's side. But that is a great example of why Dia is such a phenomenal racer, is you adapt when you run into something. If it doesn't work the first time, you don't try to do it exactly the way you did it before. You come up with what you need to get through it, and you get through it. And that is why Dia certainly terrifies me moving forward into the next round.
And we do get a water hag here. Zilch knew that was coming when he saw the blue robe, because he did see the blue robes up at the element spot in the giant. So Dia, with her levels, is going to get through these fights super fast. Nothing here was difficult, but definitely has the strength to just bully everything here. Who do you think Dia is going to take for her fifth party member? Did we actually see Iridia yet, or not?
There was Iridia in the Watery Pass. There was another Palom in Baron Inn. I don't know if she's that interested in taking the time to go through those fights, but when you're getting that much experience, considering you're gonna probably get both of those Paloms all the way up to Nuke 2, it's really not gonna matter when you're slingshotting either one of them.
Yeah, it's just the tiara I was thinking might. The tiara is a stat boosting hat for Iridia, well, for any of the ladies on the team, that gives +10 to the black magic stats, so very clearly a great boon for Iridia. So that's why I was thinking that may be the path we take this time. Because also, like you said, if we have to grind out enough D-machines to get Paloms leveled up, Iridia's getting that slingshot. She's going to be like level 57 or so.
Yes, she will be plenty beefy, and once again, considering that Alt Gauntlet is up there, that Tiara, the magic bonus is good, but the defense on it as well would be something to consider. And that was the Magma Key for Zilch, so Zilch now headed underground, potentially checking the freebies, does have Earth Crystal in hand. I'm wondering how long we don't see that check from Zilch, because knowing that is where the only Tella we've seen so far is, that's going to be very important.
Yeah, I anticipate freebie checks. If Zilch grabbed that one Siren from Antlion, I expect he'll pop that down here to kill one yellow Dragon Egg to get Quake on his kids. And that means that at least he will probably have an easier time with the Magus Sisters fight and that Evil Wall fight. Not that Evil Wall was really any kind of speed bump for Dia, but the Magus Sisters fight, if Zilch can get that first try, he makes up some much needed time.
Yeah, and if you're Dia here and you get that Magna Key, are you still interested in checking those freebies? What bosses may be in the Fey March before you go up for that grind?
Let's see. Is there literally any chance of hitting 10 key items after leaving here? If we get the hook from one freebie, that lets us turn in... If we get hook and pan, and like all of these combine to give even more key items, there is a very teensy chance that you can hit 10 before the grind. So I think you do. Although Dia hasn't been to Baron Inn yet, so maybe she doesn't. Zilch, of course, you know, if everything aligns perfectly, would have that, could get that advantage going into the grind.
Yeah, 10 key items is definitely something to consider. Zilch, as we mentioned, knowing that alt gauntlet there is just something that keeps coming to mind for me, because if you only need one piece to go mode, and you know that alt gauntlet is there, you know, small chance you might be interested in trying to hunt for a final key item as opposed to clearing that.
Yeah. But we'll see when we get down here. Zilch did find the one trap chest up on the first floor, so gets to do bonus looting down here. Gungnir Spear is very nice for that Kane on his team. And everything else is just cash money, more or less.
Yeah, Dragon Whip and the Shuriken are good cash money.
Ooh, the Twin Harp now gives you the temptation of doing Dark Elf Cave before doing Zot, just because you can route them in together. It's a rather slow check, but it is, like, spatially, like, reasonably close. It's hard to find a... Like, if you anticipate doing music on a seed, you're probably best off doing it when you go to Zot. But yeah, Zilch might end up playing for the 10 key items here. I don't know.
Well, depending on how long you run before making that Earth Crystal check, you know, as you said, Invent, it's probably now that you're underground, might not be the first thing that you plan on routing in, just as far as, you know, wanting to, if you're going to do music, do it just before you do Earth. So we might find, if you find something like a Baron Key, things like that, that might lengthen the time before we see Zilch go to that Earth Crystal. And that was Golbez and the Dolls down in the Fey March.
I mean, get Quake, and the dolls are basically free. The Golbez there is so much more annoying there than when he's at the Asura spot, because at the Asura spot, the magic attack is so high that a single Star Veil pretty much gets you enough reflected spells to drain his 23,000 HP pool. Leviathan spot, 35,000 HP, lower magic attack. It's a bit of a slog. Like, the spells are still strong enough to wreck you, but they don't chew through his HP nearly quickly enough.
Yeah, you're going to see high triple digits, low thousands at most from those spells. So you want to have damage on your own end if you're going to take that one on, unfortunately. We are seeing the end from Dia.
Yeah, picked up that Adamant Rock, so halfway to a forge and getting even closer to the 10 key item mark.
And I think we are, you know, assuming, you know, we're going to see the grind manip coming up here from Dia. There is going to be that question once you have finished the giant in Dia's case of, are you going to go back to Earth and clear things there, or are you interested in diving down to that moon where there's that density of key item checks?
Yeah, and that may end up being, that will undoubtedly end up being a big difference maker here as well. Just having that tele first means, you know, the ball's in your court. Like, you have control over your destiny. You get your levels, you go and you pick your poison. Zilch doesn't have that privilege right now, doesn't have the Tela, can't just go do the grind right now. Definitely needs to, I mean, if he can do Dwarf Castle soon, maybe there's another Tela there and he saves all the trouble of going through Zot anyway. But right now, Dia in... Oh, hey, there's another place that Tela could be. More rabbit holes, more!
Yeah, so this is that type of situation where we might see Zilch with 10 key items by the time you see that Earth Crystal, because I couldn't think of a reason to route out a required Baron, particularly with the levels that you have. This is a very doable spot to pick up a little more XP as well. So I would be surprised if we don't see Baron for the character check, completing that objective as another thing before potentially doing that Earth Crystal.
Yeah, and also, as chat pointing out, that and Dia's heading underground as well. This puts both our runners in basically go mode. You have access to all the objectives you need. Nothing stands in your way. You just got to get your levels and get it done. Which, unfortunately for Zilch, I think gives Dia a pretty big advantage here, having that Tela. Zilch really needs to pull a Tela out of Baron Castle here to get back in this race.
Yeah, that I think right now I would certainly give an advantage to Dia, knowing that you have this grind set up, that, you know, completing the Giant of Babel as an objective, it gives you a lot of incentive to get through that. But we are only looking at one more key item to also have Forge. So the big question is, if Dia grinds, if Dia goes through with the grind, completes the Giant, the Moon is not potentially going to have any of the pieces of Go mode that we need if we find that Legend Sword down here.
Yeah.
So this is something I think moving forward, and as we've seen in this entire table round, is where do you go after your grind is one of the big gambles that you have to choose. Do you go to the Moon for those dense key items? Do you try to metagame off what your opponent might be doing and try to make similar checks? That's going to be the big deciding factor for Dia so far, and depending on what this key item here is in Baron, potentially the basement, that Sheila one could be gating all of Go mode.
Yeah, and chat pointing out that I may be a little too quick to judge. I see a Tela on these flag sets and I make certain assumptions, but chat has wisely pointed out that if we do get the other half of the Forge down here, all of a sudden that saves Zilch from having to fight that alt gauntlet. So if Dia decides, I just want to go grind and go, as like right now, it seems she's hunting probably for life potions, I think we've not seen yet. So if she decides she wants to do the grind first, this does open a nice little pathway for Zilch to just do the Forge, maybe pull out those low levels aroma strats that he has been refining that we've seen in a few races.
Definitely, this is definitely two paths diverging. So Dia will, have her grind completed much faster than Zilch, but that doesn't necessarily give the lead, knowing that you only have to do 3 out of the 4 of these objectives, so maybe you get lucky and you never have to complete that Giant, because that saves a heck of a lot of time. And if you've been watching Zilch, you know they will complete Zeromus with a shoelace and a roll of duct tape if they need to.
Hey, do you want to know one of the worst spots for Valvalis? This spot's one of the worst for Valvalis. She gets the maxed out 255 magic defense. That means no spell can even land on her if she's spinning. And she gets the maximum physical defense when spinning. 5 evade multipliers. So this is one of those spots where you are very thankful you have a cane. If Dia does end up getting that Baron Key and takes this route, she will be very thankful that I'm assuming she's going to, at that point, have a level 50-something Sid who will be able to tear through those defense multipliers.
Yeah, this is a rude spot. Definitely, as you said, having that cane as opposed to running that only black mage party is huge for Zilch right now.
Yeah. Oh, and Hood Ornament, you are correct. Zilch has cane, and that's why he doesn't have to take a reset here. Dia does not have cane, and thus will definitely be relying on physical power overwhelming in the form of Hammer Ton.
Yep, without levels, if Dia had come across this fight, this would not be something like the Magus Sisters where you can reset and come back with a better plan. If you only have Sid with the hammer at this point, you're not getting through this one. You would have to walk of shame out of there.
And the other question I have is what does Dia intend to do when she leaves the giant? Because you've mentioned the moon plenty of times, but we know the freebie just gives you go mode.
Yeah, Sheila 1 is one of those checks that, you might fade until you find the pan. We haven't seen the pan yet. Maybe the pan is on the rune, but this is really going to be the routing. It's going to be routing choices for Dia are potentially going to give her an advantage, or really set her back as far as potential last locationing Sheila 1 if the pan happens to be a Baron, something along those lines.
Can I complain about Palom's using Quake and only killing one of the beamers? That is so annoying, especially when you have it set up to where Tella's going next. You're like, okay, we're gonna kill the beamers, we're gonna have a weak queued up, and then he kills one and not the other. It's like, come on, Palom.
Yeah, I have had this happen to me recently as well, and that is essentially my reaction every time.
And with that, Zilch has gotten through Val. Will soon be lighting up objective number 3. And I'm excited to see who this character is. A Tella here is really spicy. The key item, if it's the Legend Sword, is absurd. All right, we've got a race.
We certainly have a race now, so that your grind is now ready if you're Zilch. Having said that, you have a few places that you can check for key items if what you're looking for is that last piece of forge. But then again, with the giant being an objective, Zilch is effectively and completely in go mode right now. So this key item is really going to determine, if this happened to be forge, this could give Zilch a huge lead. Otherwise, Dia is really most likely going to have to, correctly route back to Sheila 1.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is so huge. Not only does that give us another 2 shots at hitting the Legend Sword, that gives really decent odds of hitting 10 key items before the grind as well. And wait, did Zilch not... Oh yeah, the Rat Tail was Zod. Gotcha. Okay, so that's not an option for him, though.
Yep, and this is one of those... If you're at 9 and you have Zod, you have the Harp, are you going to wait on that? Are you going to check another thing? Or, you are completing the Giant from Go mode, or are you just going to do your grind with 9?
I think another part of this depends on how much you've studied your opponent. I think that Dia has illustrated in the course of this table stage that she will grind early, as soon as possible every time. And if you get close to 10 key items, maybe you try to counterplay that by waiting until you hit 10 to speed the grind up.
Yeah, there are plenty of choices to make right now, and I'm not sure if any of them are, the right one or the wrong one. But
can we downgrade this sword? Excal, no. We just need a dinky little Legend Sword. Come on.
Maybe if you take it to Kakol, you can, reverse engineer it back into 2 parts.
So you're saying he could break it down? I mentioned it was hammer time already, right?
Certainly been bonk time. I'm not sure. We might see that hammer.
Sheila with a Legend Sword here does still get Zilch to 10, because being able to forge first does give you the crystal.
I will say, from what I've seen of Zilch playing, Zilch does not necessarily need to grind with the team and the potential gear. So
also
we could see something really interesting if Zilch happened to want to look for 1 more key item or 2 more key items and happens upon that forge. We might get a chance to see one of these really tricky strats that Zilch has up his sleeve.
And it is a key item, but it is not the one that unlocks Go mode. So, is Zilch gonna go fishing? or is he going to grind and go?
This is one of those where, I don't, hindsight is when you can actually tell what the better choice would be. We do know that Earth would give the Rat Tail, which would be one more key item, which would be 10. But there's one key item that would give you a faster go mode, and right now, really the only place they'll check for it would be Dwarf or at the Harp.
Yeah. Well, there is one spot that I'm thinking about here that would be a really fast fight, and that is that Dolls fight at Asura. But of course, the Feymarch spot's overall lower chance of having a key item. That would be the one that I would be tempted to go throw 2 Quakes at. Well, only one in Zilch's case. And just knock those Dolls out, maybe throw the Grimoire if the Quake doesn't finish it off. But going ahead and grinding, not waiting for that 10th key item.
It is hard, even knowing that that's the alt gauntlet, it is hard to continue searching when you have an option to get yourself that crystal.
And chat pointing out our tracker gambit, you can also check the Baron basement. Like, we've not seen the Baron guards or the Kaipo guards. And we do have Atella. He knows all kinds of spells that can instantly neutralize them.
Have we seen King and Queen Eblin yet?
No, not seen them either, I believe. So there are plenty of options out there, but Zilch committing did find that Tella, said, okay, I'm checking my pan freebies, and I'm going. There's no worse feeling than when you do try to fish out a 10th key item, and you get just junk over and over again. But the temptation has to be real right here.
Yeah, and, I mean, as you've mentioned, I would assume these two runners know each other pretty well. So Zilch, with that Tella, has to assume that Dia probably has a Tella as well from somewhere. So the time you're spending looking for things, you have to be relatively certain that Dia might also be in go mode and in this exact same position. And she's probably just going to go right ahead and grind to go for it.
Yeah, so at this point, without the 10th key item, Zilch's grind will be roughly the same speed Dia's was. It's gonna, and again, even with that Tella, ball is still firmly in Dia's court. I know I used that same cliche earlier, but it's true. She's done with her grind. She's getting all her levels right here. She's going to have triple nuke ready to go. Not a whole lot can stand in her way except her own routing at this point.
Yeah, the chance for first place is firmly there. The one thing I did mention that did come true here was that pan being in Baron, which might make you want to route. A lot of runners, if they don't have something like the pan, if they have access to the moon, very well might consider not checking that Sheila 1 until after, either you have the pan or you cleared the moon, something along those lines. So I've seen Dia make amazing routing choices before. I'm not saying that she won't check Sheila 1, but the moon is incredibly tempting with a party of this caliber to just go and get that density of key items.
Yeah. The other thing, too, is that, we've mentioned that these racers know each other. They know how skilled they are. Dia can just as reasonably assume that Zilch went to the Tower of Zot hunting a Tella, got one, and is also grinding or nearly done. In which case, Dia may be thinking, okay, if Zilch is more likely to have, checked those freebies, then he's probably wrapping up now. I need to go now, instead of chasing them. There's a whole lot of metagaming that's going to have to go into the routing here. I am still of the opinion, check your freebies, check them, do it. But we'll see if our racers get a little more creative than that.
Yeah, Dia and Zilch, it very much has the potential of we have a tortoise versus the hare, not calling Zilch entirely a tortoise, but this is how it's sort of playing out here, is a few bonus checks, skipping that Tower of Zot because it wasn't, something that's immediately on your radar because of speed it takes to get through it, has put them on slightly different paths. But, this could even come down. Zilch had a little trouble there getting that Baron manip set up. And even that 90 seconds that we saw Zilch having to reset in order to get the correct seed to get the manip set up could be the difference in this race.
Have another 42,000 XP. What, you're not going to throw life glitches on these?
Yeah, this has to be one of those fights for Dia once you're done with your grind where you just... I think you don't have too much difficulty getting through it, but it is rude to just have your characters get this much more XP. Because you could have maybe anticipated getting a bonus 100k if you wanted to cut the grind a little short, but weren't anticipating getting probably 200 some bonus XP out of these 5 fights that we're about to see. So, with this all-magic party, is there anyone you think that we haven't seen who could show up here in this CPU spot who might, at least slow the freight train of Dia down?
The only thing I could see is, again, these mages are fairly squishy. Unironically, the Kaipo guards might be a little rude here. If we go into that fight fully anchored, then odds are both a charge and a normal punch comes out from each of them. And they have enough HP to where a single Quake won't finish the fight. So that would be a little rude to see them punch all your mages right out the gate, but I don't think there's anything that really slows Dia down at this point.
I do think I agree with you. This fight is actually one of those curious ones where I had said before, you don't really need a white mage when you have 3 new casters, but you might not mind having a white mage when you have to do 5 fights in a row.
So, Zilch is not fighting a manipulated D-Machine fight.
Well,
Did he just run into the gauntlet fight? Just heads up? Going for it?
That is, I believe, what we're at here. We did see some trouble getting the manip set up. So it might just be, again, these runners know each other so well. You can only give up so much time against either of them. So I might think that this is just, something that you have to do in order to try to stay on track. And once again, Zilch doesn't necessarily need nuke on these characters to defeat Threemus.
That is absolutely true. Did we see vampires for Selva? I mean, I know that he doesn't even need vampire strats to beat Threemus, but I was just wondering if we had actually seen them.
I believe we did see them maybe down in the Fey March. I could be entirely wrong. I've been playing a lot of this game recently, so my shops sometimes run together.
Chat has us covered. Vampires are on the moon.
So Zilch did find vampires. Okay. Zilch also with that Palom has amongst all the strats, bluffing up Palom with this virus, just like the Mac Giant grind, is something you can use against Threemus as well, because doing that 4,000 before you're close to the health refill and then reflecting that 4,000 can really speed up that fight as well.
Nadia, not going to give us swag rocks. Come on, this fight calls for Medio. Medio, by the way, is wholly elemental in this game, and those ghasts do not like being on the receiving end of it. Medio.
If I had it on Tele here, I would queue it up, at least to play the game of, does the Medio go off? But no, I don't think this fight will slow you down too much. Mylon, when his Ghast Friends goes away, does get a little punchy, but won't be able to throw enough to prevent enough nukes from going off.
Yeah, I think he gets burned down before a single punch comes out. Yeah, there he goes. Have another 150,000 XP. Why not? Just pile it on.
Yeah, probably gonna feel pretty safe going into this Z fight. You're not really concerned about seeing the second Big Bang. If anything, these levels are just making you more comfortable about the amount of damage that those nukes are gonna do when you're reflecting them. And just a white mage at the top of the giant, but now is the big question, where is Dia going to go?
Yep. With this, she will light up that objective number 4, and Sheila's got the goods. Of course, Dia also only needs a legend sword for go mode, so even if she does go moon, may not be that costly, but she's headed to the control panel instead of the crystal. This heavily implies she's about to check her freebies.
Yeah, and you know, again, these runners know each other. You might want to try to circle back to some of the things that you think Zilch might have done, and that is a very good point. Even if she does not immediately go and do exactly what I was concerned or wondering about, that legend sword could be somewhere else. We haven't seen the Baron basement, but otherwise there are plenty of checks that can give you the other route to go mode, or a potential second route to go mode.
The other thing too is that at least Dia will probably fight the dolls here just because she knows she can one-shot it without any real effort. So that does get a few seconds back on Zilch's side. But the difference at which these gauntlets are going is... it's notable.
Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say that a low level 50 party is going to get through the Zilch gauntlet slightly faster than one just in their 20s. But doing admirably at getting through, and this will be Crystal Go mode for Zilch, and I imagine Zilch is doing this specifically because he knows he won't need any more levels after this to effectively defeat Threemus. And you were right, that's the doll's play.
Now, if that had been a legend sword, that would have been ridiculous. Oh, we're going for the Gulby fight too. All right, all right.
You know, I don't think this is that curious of a choice. You know, your opponent very well could
Yeah,
get
you don't want to
up
come back to
with these
Feymarch.
stats. Yeah.
Yeah.
Never want to have to walk to Feymarch after doing one of the two fights.
It's just that Golbez is obnoxious even when you do have a party that's just going to utterly dunk on him, like Dia's team here. So it's like blah 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 blah. We have a speech, we have a dragon. It's bring your dragon to work day, and it just takes so long. And Dia is all about going super fast, right?
Yeah, I am curious. I will have to ask Dia, you know, why the choice was to come down here and start making these checks as opposed to Moon. I'm in no way implying, you know, that one is the right or the wrong decision. It is curious to see going this route, at least in my opinion. I'm not sure what you think about it, Inven, because...
I mean, the thing is that, you know, we say check your freebies, but for this team, everything is free, basically. So it's like, which freebie do you choose, you know?
Yeah. And this is free, but this is not super fast. And as you said, at least, you know, according to the data that you have compiled, the Feymarch is less likely, apparently.
Oh, I've not compiled anything. That is all the doing of far cleverer and talented members of the community than I am, than me. But yeah. Generally, any given summon, quest location, or the moon spots is like, I believe it's about 47% chance for any given one to have a key item, whereas every spot in the vanilla pool is a bit higher than that.
Yeah, I believe I did see that as well. That is, it does make for curious decision making. But there is also the consideration that there are 5 of those right next to each other.
Yeah, the density definitely does make a bit of a difference. But here, for Dia, there were 3 basically side-by-side in Feymarch.
Yep.
And then there is one that is in the vanilla pool via Sheila, if that's where you go.
Now, if we stick with this underground play, will we see the Sheila 1 check, or this was what I was curious about, because you might want to knock this one out as well if you thought that this was the routing that Zilch had taken.
Yeah, yeah.
But this is giving Zilch a little time to catch up. If you're paying attention over there, Zilch had an Hourglass 3, used it on these Mac Giants, and got a nice life glitch off. So, slowly gaining a very decent amount of XP on this longer giant fight than Dia's, but it's certainly more value as far as XP goes for this team.
Yeah. Which Zilch does not need a lot of. Zilch just wants to have 2 characters with 1200 HP and a stack full of vampires, and is pretty close to being there. I mean, just needs the stack of vampires.
Yep, and with the fight, we know what this next fight is. So Zilch is about to have his crystal in hand.
Yeah, and this fight is not bad for the team at all. Like, Zilch is gonna... Mylon will get punchy, but we have 2 sources of blink. Yeah. We don't have the nuke.
Get rid of those. The ghasts at least.
Yeah.
And yeah, you'll take some punches. You're gonna get punched. You're gonna get punched in the face a few times. But that actually was, as far as Zilch is concerned, a very good boss for Dia to find in the Dwarf Castle, because that is slightly slower than any other boss would be.
Yeah.
Plague, on the other hand, is going to float menacingly for about 4.5 seconds and then immediately vanish back to wherever Plague originally comes from. But we are still, the Legend Sword is out there, Dwarf. If you did find the Legend Sword, it would technically save you time over Zilch having done all of Baron in order to get that the third objective complete.
That's true, that's true. And that Val, again, if Dia does end up having to complete that objective, all these nukes are just going to bounce off that tornado form. It will just come down to a Zerk Sid with a wooden hammer plinking away for a good, 3 to 4 minutes.
Yeah, I am curious to see how much damage Sid will do. It has a lot to do with the strength multipliers, doesn't it? And I don't think we've seen much as far as strength multipliers to throw on to Sid, or weapons that offer bonus attack.
Oh, she's doing Keela's Tower too, giving Zilch every opportunity to catch up here. Just the unwillingness to go to Sheila without a Pam is.
She's just drawing on a map right now. There's just a circle around the Fey March. It just says you need to go here, and she is just circling around it, so close.
No, when Dia saved, did you see what level her Sid has gotten up to?
My guess is 87, but I'm not entirely sure.
Okay,
I couldn't say accurately.
Let's guess 52. Let's say, well, no, she'd had to do the gauntlet. Let's say level 55. Level 55 Sid has 66 strength. Yeah, you're gonna be fine with that Val fight. It's not gonna be fast like all these other things you're nuking into oblivion, but you're still fine. Like, it's not gonna stop you.
No, I wasn't saying it would require some sort of reset, but it is amazing how much damage that tornado can absorb. If you don't have the good weapons on top of the bonus levels. And this is Bahamut up top.
Yeah. The real annoying thing for Dia here is if this spot gives something like a Luca key, or like a tower key into a Luca key, or even the hook, because all these things are going to derail her even more. Meanwhile, Zilch has completed that giant, lights up objective 4, gets a crystal for his troubles, and I think we're about to see him go straight to the moon. This is exciting. I admit, I completely... And I think I reasonably thought that Dia had the huge advantage this seed, courtesy of, okay, white shirt is good for her. I think she's going straight to Sheila now.
Yep, okay. There it is. I think the hesitance in going to Sheila before those other checks was, again, You might want to get the pan so you don't have to make this walk twice.
Yeah. But that's really good news for her. The nearly gave the advantage to Zilch, I think, but the thing is that as good and clever as Zilch's low HP vampire strats are, Dia has 3 murder children with nuke. One of these Aromas fights is going to be considerably faster than the other one.
Yes.
But Zilch is looking like he'll be there first. Just one more shopping trip and a little organization. It's going to be a very close finish, one way or the other.
So, Chasman in chat asking about the 1200 HP strats. I think what we're going to see in my discussions with Zilch is a strat that I have tried once or twice that he has described. I'm calling, since we've already called one strat Zilch strats, we can't have multiple strats that are all just called Zilch strats. It's not fair. All I get is Fade Antlion, and Zilch gets a bunch of cool Aroma strats. We're not doing that. This is Battle Speed 6 strats, is what I would consider calling them, because the quote-unquote Zilch strats is all about Star Veils, Cure 3s, and Vampires. This is about turning it down to Battle Speed 6. You're going to see some bluffs on that Palom, and you are going to just drop Zeromus before the second Big Bang, most likely, just because of the number of turns that you are going to get off.
Yeah, and also I'm a dingus chat. I'm an old man. I completely forgot that although we do get go mode from Sheila, we still have to actually do Baron.
Yeah.
And all it's 2 fights, bunch of cutscenes, long walk. So yeah, this is okay. This is exciting. This is exciting again.
I think that the tortoise and the hare analogy for this Aromas fight has the potential of coming into play. I mean, there's a 0% chance that Dia doesn't get through these 2 fights. Zilch definitely going to be into this Aromas fight first, but with these strats that I'm anticipating, this is going to be, maybe an 11 plus or give or take a few minutes, an 11 minutes Aromas fight. So, tortoise in the hare right now.
Yeah. So while Zilch is walking down, getting ready to give us a master class in low-level strats, my curiosity is, one, how much Dia is going to curse when she sees Valvalis, but also, how many hits do you think it's going to take Sid to finish her off?
How many hits does it take to get to the center of that magical wind shell?
Yeah.
That is the thing. That was why I was bringing it up earlier, is I think Sid is probably, even with all these levels, hitting for, between 150 and 300 on each one of those swings. And that is my question. Would you take over/under for how much Zerk Sid is going to do to that Val at 250 hit points?
Well, and not just that, but also with Dia's turn order here. Well, okay, actually, never mind. I think Dia can get a nuke off and just kill Val before the tornado starts. I think this is all moot.
We'll find out, I think, in about 8 seconds. Zilch getting set up. Tele-anchoring, gonna have 4 RA1 characters. Keep an eye out, see if we do get that drop down to Battle Speed 6. And this is, if you've seen Eddie strats, this is a new one. This is another way of beating Zeromus without, doing a whole bunch of damage directly, without casting high-level spells or having your, Zerkers hitting for several thousand apiece. This is 100%, I believe, the creation of Zilch. And, if you can come up with strats like this, there is a reason that you were 3-0 in the table round right now. And I do think I see these Z flags. Z?
Yeah, it's pretty late. I'm kind of tired too.
Yeah. Maybe they're just, with these weeks from Valvalis, thinking some people are probably going to get knocked down.
Look, Chad, we'll answer your question once I see. Okay, 800 with a Dwarf Axe. That's not so bad. 900. Yeah, okay.
Oh, that's cheating. I thought it was the wooden hammer. This doesn't count. That canceled. Nobody wins. But I think there is a question.
Say it.
All right. Whose butt are we going to kick tonight. On one side very quickly, and on one side very, very methodically.
So let's see. Dia has to walk down to the Baron Pot, deal with that cutscene, fly to the moon, walk the moon, and then nuke Zeromus into oblivion. Zilch's technique here will be a little more ponderous, but will be very fascinating to watch.
So we are at 111.45. I would say Dia has made the moonwalk by what, maybe 115? Maybe a little less than that?
I don't know. We'll keep track of it. Let's time this based on when Z transforms, when we see crystals thrown. How's that?
That works for me because I believe there is going to be maybe a...
There we go.
There goes the crystal.
112.08, crystal thrown for Zilch.
And we are going to see this is the quit nuking yourself strategy.
And it is an anthropomorphic taiko drum.
Oh, I'm sure Scala might be around to explain this, or Inven, if you have an understanding of what we're looking at here, I would love to hear.
I mean, there are a whole bunch of like taiko drum themed like rhythm games, and I'm guessing this is from one of them.
Well, big shout out to Scala. If Scala is around, the creator of a majority of these sprites, a combination of Scala and Board, we have, I believe, something like 860,000 sprites now. So Scala has been very busy. And here comes the first counter nuke. Get used to seeing these reflected nukes off these vampires, because this is going to be happening several times.
Slorp. And that alt gauntlet was kind of perfect. It did get enough levels for Zilch to hit that 1200 sweet spot on Palom. Tella's ability to survive a nerf Big Bang is questionable. I don't know what other gear may have been stacked on him. A nerf Big Bang will not do more than 1200 damage. If you dodge a roll of it, it'll only do 900 at most. You add in magic defense, maybe there's a chance. But given that Tella's cursed, I wouldn't hold my breath. But everyone else on the team is guaranteed to survive this first Big Bang and keep the vampires flowing.
Yeah, and with these strats, you typically don't anticipate at least your anchor surviving through the first Big Bang. So Tella's life is not as consequential. But everyone else at the current levels that they're at certainly will be able to live through, and then potentially with another round of vampires have enough. The other beauty of these strats is if you do end up going longer, then the second Big Bang, you're basically guaranteed to nerf it, so they only have to live another 1200 after that. So it's slightly more safe than you might think. And you do wonder, Zilch originally did try to get that Baron Manip set up to do a D machine grind before calling this audible and going right into the gauntlet. And that 70, 80 seconds or so might be the difference if Dia does manage to catch up here.
Cryuji in chat asking, how long does Zilch's strat take? I think he's gotten it down with the full 5-party vampire thing, down to like 7-8 minutes or so. It's not as long as you may think.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't compare with how long Eddie strats are, because there aren't a bunch of inputs and a bunch of Big Bang animations and hiding and unhiding that you're going through. This is just sort of the amount of time that it takes to get through, the vampires, the damage, and then 10, 12-ish nukes without any bonus damage from the vampires. So you can avoid the tip and the refill.
Yeah, the danger that you have to worry about is if your vampires and the reflected nukes all happen to particularly high roll or low roll, it can end up throwing things off. You really don't want to accidentally activate the refill here.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, go ahead. Dia doesn't need to save. Did a full grind, And then got to do another mini grind on top of it, clearing the giant bosses, has levels out the wazoo, has swag walked on down here, no safety save. But we still have a lot of nukes to cast. This is going to be so close.
Yeah, this is, as somebody who participated in a tie, we are definitely looking at some finish times that are going to be comparable. Do we remember when Zilch threw that crystal?
Yeah, 112.08 was when I saw the animation being played. Chat said about 112.10, so sometime around there. So let's see, I'm going to try to get the second-ish of when Dia's crystal starts animating. Of course, Dia not being at battle speed 6 gets to fling it a little faster.
Yep, and if you'll notice as well, the safety that comes from using those vampires is at least 3 of Zilch's characters are already back over that 1200 HP threshold.
Yeah.
So a second Big Bang is not that scary because it is guaranteed to nerf, because all you're doing is the nerfing Big Bang strategy.
Yeah, and chat, we'll call it 5 minutes. Sounds good to me as well. So Dia getting the fight underway roughly 5 minutes after.
This is going to be interesting. I'm not sure what if I saw Dia make any changes to battle speed, but we are going to see the power of 3 nuke casters is arguably the fastest Threemus fight you're going to be able to offer.
I can't tell you how difficult it is for me, you know, given admin status, to not click the race room. Spoiler myself, I am sitting here like sitting on my hands to make sure that I avoid this temptation.
I didn't join the room specifically for that reason. I know if I see new unreds, I even just subconsciously want to go look at it. Zilch is now switched. Palom is now using the crystal, which means Zilch feels that he has done right around that 42,000 damage mark. So this will be 10-ish reflected nukes, 12 perhaps, and then that will be it for Zilch. Meanwhile, Dia is reflecting her own nukes instead of letting Threemus do them for about a quarter of the damage.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to say here. It's neck and neck here at the finish. Dia power overwhelming. Zilch with the more, I don't know. What's a good adjective for these strats?
This is a slow and steady sort of low level Z fight. This isn't as input and timing intensive as Cure 3s and Vampires. This is relatively safe, but you don't feel any better about yourself knowing that you're racing Dia and that she cannot be far behind with the way everything is laid out.
Sid knocking Tella out. Stop taking my turns. I think this nuke does it, right?
We're close.
Yeah, that's the crumble. Dia. Wait, no, that's a shake. My bad.
I didn't see the flash there. It has to be, I would assume, from the number of nukes that we've seen.
There's been so many. Okay, that one. That's the flash.
There it is.
Dia takes it with, I'm sure our restream will get us the time posted soon.
And that is Dia's final match of the round of 32 table play-in. This puts Dia at 5-1. We will most definitely be seeing Dia in the next round. Hopefully I won't be the one specifically seeing Dia in the next round, because as you've seen here, very, very, very fast and very good at getting through any of these different fights. Very resourceful. GG's to Dia.
Yeah, and dropped only one match and has given another heretofore undefeated player his first L. So Zilch is going to drop to 3-1 here. Still in great shape, of course, to make the table as well. It will not surprise me in the slightest if we see these two facing off again in the playoffs and beyond.
Yeah, keep an eye out for both of these runners. Zilch has 3 wins over, I mean, anyone in the table is a win that you should feel proud of. But Zilch, with obviously incredibly resourceful as well, pioneering these strats, things that this could be the first time on the Free Enterprise channel that we have seen this specific strat actually be utilized.
Yep. And it can't be much further to go here for Zilch either. One final array of Starvels going up, it looks like.
Yeah, we should be very, very close. You have to reveal after that second black hole, but I believe we're maybe 2 or 3 away from this being done. One of the alternative strategies is to bluff up the Palom right at the beginning. If it's more valuable if you have more than one, but as you see, those reflected viruses are also just faster than sitting through this animation.
Yeah. Nuke, inside of its strength, is pretty slow, and the funny thing is, of course, that Palom's viruses are basically as strong as Romus's nukes at this point. I'm excited to see this this chest count. Now, I know there was a treasury that threw things off a little bit.
Yeah, you
Are we going to see the sub 20 here? Oh, 30 treasures. Oh my goodness. Not the 7 that we expected, right?
14 bosses. That was very close, and that was, great routing from Dia. I'm very curious to hear from her about those decisions, because this is a lot of these table flags are going to come down to where do you go when you get off that giant, when you have your levels. And this time, Dia decided to go underground.
And the fact that that nuke isn't going away off the screen means Zilch has finished as well, showing off those low-level strats, taking down the Tycho drum, just a few minutes behind Dia. Super well executed. GG's out for both these amazing racers. We're going to get them in for a double interview, I believe. And hey, we're joined by Dia and Zilch. GG's both of you. Amazing race.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dia, my first question is, which do you hate more, freebies or Valvalis?
Valvalis.
Okay.
I was going to go do that check if I found Hook or Pan, but neither of them showed up, so I was just like, okay, let's just keep clearing these out. Hopefully Zilch didn't do this and get it much quicker than I did.
Yeah, I was curious, was there a specific reason that you chose, once you had finished the giant, to go underground as opposed to potentially going up, looking on the moon?
Mainly because, in the case that both the Legend Sword and the Baron Key were down there, I knew there was a chance Zilch would just skip the giant and do 1200 strats. So I wanted to kind of cover my bases, make sure that both were in the freebie slots. And once I found, the famous chest was nothing, I was like, okay, let's just clear out the underground, then we can do the silk check.
Makes sense to me. Yeah.
I asked whether you hated freebies or Val more, but the thing is that when you have that team that you've gotten nuke before fighting an alt gauntlet on the giant, every check is a freebie at that point.
That's fair.
Yeah, and Zilch, take us through sort of what you were thinking. You finished Baron. All you had to do, potentially was clear the giant to have your crystal in hand, and you were trying to set up the Baron manip. What was going through your mind there?
So I wasn't actually trying to set up the Baron manip. I was trying to farm an hourglass so I could get through the gauntlet without any worry, because that could just give me a nice breaking point, and then I can heal up in the middle of a fight, and then finish it off through there, and that would give me all the levels I needed. But I think looking at my timer at the time, I think it was at least 3 minutes. So I'm curious how close the race would have been if I just didn't even try that to begin with. But yeah, that's what I was trying to do. And then at some point I was like, all right, we've hit this point. I'm just cutting my losses and just going to YOLO the gauntlet with what we got. So I wasn't even trying to do any manip, no intention of doing a D machine or Big Mac grind. I just wanted to farm an hourglass if I could.
That makes sense. Inven, you got questions?
Yeah, well, Dia, you're now 5-1, looking to have really good tiebreakers at that. So potentially going to get one of those draft spots. We just have to see how things play out, of course. Are you still looking at the me, Zilch, and Flurry as the trio of choice, or had like maybe this match has made you reconsider things a little bit tonight?
You're in there 100%, Inven. You're not getting away.
Gotcha. And Zilch,
Yeah,
this
keep
is your
me away
first.
though.
Keep you. This is your first loss. You have 2 matches to go. Looking in great shape as well, of course, to continue on to the next stage of the tournament. What are your next 2 matches? When can we look forward to seeing you in action next?
I've got Mecha Link and actual JP. I think the JP match is like in a week or so, and it's towards the end. And then my match with Mecha, I have to double check. I think it's in the, not too far away, on the 12th. So tomorrow, great, very close. That's the one match at a time mentality. Makes it like, oh, I have a match tomorrow. Uh-oh. Yeah, I know Mecha knows the 1200 HP strats too, so I don't really have the advantage there on that. So we'll see what happens.
Maybe we'll get a level 30 cap flag one of these years, and then boom.
I really wanted that for this race because yeah, with those mages without nuke, who knows what will happen.
I'll buff them up and then do reflection back to the virus.
That's
Yeah, amazing race. Yeah. PK, if you have any other questions, Dia or Zilch, if either of you have any further thoughts, I'm all ears. I was just happy to get to behold 2 of the greats in action tonight. It was amazing.
Yeah, just GG's to both of you.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
I guess, yeah, that is the potential wrap up. Thank you so much, Inven, for doing comms. If you want to shout out the rest of the team, take us out, go ahead.
make sure you follow PK. He's amazing at this game as well. Follow Asuka and Gambit for doing the work behind the scenes. Dia and Zilch are racing all the time. If you want to learn some new strats for yourself or just how to go faster, make sure you follow all of them. Let me pop these commands in chat. We are waiting to hear where our raid is going, so I'm going to give y'all a quick heads up on what matches are tomorrow, the 12th, at 7 o'clock Eastern on RPG Limit Break. We have Prof. Corey versus Baka Shinobi. At 8 Eastern on a Randomania network, there will be Frostbite and Lock Cole Live. At 9 here on Free Enterprise, you'll have me and Gaming with a Wraith playing our match. And then at 9 on another Randomania, or maybe this, I don't know. If it's a Super Jet Seat, maybe the same one. You will have Uskredwin and Dragus Cloud. So 4 matches being restreamed tomorrow, and a whole bunch more on those Khadgar links that we're posting on the Discord. So, yeah, it's going to be an exciting Monday night of action as well. And we are rating Leggy Starscream, member of the Restream team, currently not actually playing Free Enterprise, doing some Octopath Traveler speedruns. So, getting a little vanilla in your lives tonight. And PK, I'll give you the last word, sir.
Well, thanks everyone for watching. Thank you again, Asuka and Gambit on the restream and the tracking, respectively, as well.